Hi, so in this video, I'm going to talk about the steps that you can take to solve percentage problems. I always start by making a diagram to help you visualize the problem, a diagram like the ones that I discussed in the previous video. Then I do a setup for the is-of, which is kind of like putting two fractions separated by equal sign, and immediately put the 100 on the right side on the bottom because it always goes there. Then I read the problem and try to find what is the percentage that's in this problem. What number is attached to a percentage sign? And I put that on the top right here. Now, sometimes percentage is what you're looking for. There isn't any number attached to a percentage sign. If that's the case, you put an X on the percentage sign instead. Next, you try to find what about the problem is your whole, your original value, the of, or the old value that you're trying to compare to the part to the whole. Now, since the whole goes always on the bottom, it's easy to remember. Wholes go down. You put that on the bottom left of the diagram or the is-of setup. Then you try to find the part in the problem. Now, the part is going to be something like the tip, the tax, the markup, commission, increase, decrease, or discount, whatever value that is. And then you put that on the top left. Now, sometimes you will look for the whole. And then instead of putting a number on the bottom right, bottom left, you're going to put an X. Likewise, sometimes you're going to look for the part. And if that's the case, you're going to put an X on the top left. So whatever number you don't have becomes the X. All the other numbers should be put in place. So as you're trying to put them in place, and I usually put them in the order that I said, with the 100, the percentage, the whole, and then the part. If I don't have a number to associate to my original value, if that's what I'm looking for, I put that X on the whole, which is the bottom left. If I don't have the part, I put an X on the top left. And by the way, you're usually looking for a part. A lot of the problems are usually about finding the tip, the tax, the markup, and you're usually going to be looking for parts. It's the most common type. But there are cases where you're looking for the percentage or for the whole. After you have the setup and all the numbers in place, do you cross multiply? So you do the part times 100 and the whole times the percentage. And then whatever is next to the X in your next step, you divide both sides by that, whatever number is next to the X, and then you calculate your answer. Finally, you go back to the diagram and visualize to make sure your answer made sense while looking at the diagram. So let's see how that all looks in action with an actual example, right? So over here we have an example that is already done, but I'm going to still walk you through it anyhow. So there's a bill that's $35, and I'm going to do a 15% tip on that bill. And I want to know what the tip amount is and what the new price is going to be. So when I try to think about what kind of problem this is, I realize that tip is a part. So I'm looking for the part. The X is going to be on the top left of my setup because I'm looking for the is or the part in this situation. I also know that to get my new value, I have to add to my original. So I'm looking at an increase kind of problem. So my diagram is kind of going to look like this when I set up one. I'm going to have the whole set up to the 100, and then the numbers are going to go to the right because I'm going to be increasing the value. So that's exactly what I do because my first step is to set up a diagram, and you see me doing that right here. I put my $35, which is clearly the original price of the bill, paired up with the 100% because that's my original value. And then you can see that the diagram is heading to the right. The 15%, which is that tip, I put as my increase. And then, of course, that's going to be matched to an actual certain tip amount. Now, when I try to find out what my new value is, or my new price, well, I'm going to have to get the original value plus whatever tip that is in order to get that new value, which is one of the things I'm looking for, right? But I'm also looking for that tip. I also want to know what is this tip value. Now, remember, the tip is a part. The next thing I want to do, according to the instructions, is to set up an is-of setup, right? Like the fractions like that. So I'm going to do that. And you see me doing that. Okay. The next thing I want to do is put the 100 in place. That's the part that's always there. You're always going to put that 100 there. And so I put the 100 in place. Then I find in a problem my percentage, and I already have it there. It's that 15%. So I'm going to put that on the top right because that's the next thing I'm supposed to do. Place the percentage in place. And I have a number associated to it, so I put it in place. The next step is place my whole in place, or my original value on the bottom left, because the whole is on the bottom. The original value is $35, so I know that's $35. That's the original value. And so I'm going to put that on the bottom. The whole goes on the bottom. The next step is trying to find that part. Now, I know I'm trying to find that tip, but I don't know what the tip is. I'm looking for it. And so I put that X in there, right? So look at the part in place. This time I was looking for a tip. Very nice. The next thing I need to do now is cross multiply, since I already have my whole setup ready to go. So let's go do that, and let's cross multiply. Now, cross multiplying basically means getting this times this and this times that, right? So X times 100 and 35 times 15. The part times the 100 and the whole times the percentage. And then you will get 100X, and 35 times 15 is 525. So you see me that doing here in that step. Next, I'm supposed to divide both sides by whatever's next to the X in my expression. So notice I have 100 next to the X. So I have to divide both sides by 100. And you see me doing that on this next step right here. And of course, the hundreds cancel out, and my answer is going to be 525 divided by 100, which means my tip, the value that I was looking for, is $500.25. And that kind of makes sense because it's only a tiny fraction of that 100%, which was $35. Now, if I want to figure out what the new total is, right? Calculated the answer already, put the answers on the diagram. So see, I'm trying to follow the steps. But I want to find out what the new total is. Remember that I also have to add to the original because I'm looking at an increase problem. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the 35 plus the 525, and I get my new total, which is that $4.25. That's the new value that I was looking for all along, right? The new value. And that makes sense. It's bigger than my original value. So this example shows you how to apply the steps to solve percentage problems. And we're going to keep practicing that in other examples that we'll do in other videos.